If we look at the year of 1998, it is often considered as one of the greatest years ever in the video game industry. All consoles and systems would become home to some of the most memorable titles ever in existence, many of them even sparking new genres and even evolving current ones. But among them, there were a lot of hidden gems that were also released during that year that kind of flew under the radar from all of the heavy hitters, but are still worthwhile entries in their own right because they offer something different and appealing that wasn't seen anywhere else, and is still rarely even seen to this day. And with the PlayStation itself, it is no shortage of these hidden gems on the system, with a lot of them again releasing in that year. And one of the games in question would be Future Cop LAPD, that would release on the PlayStation in 98 and also on Windows PC and Mac OS, that acts as a third person mech shooter where you play as a rookie cop piloting a mech kind of device that can transform into like a road vehicle or a proper like robot. It almost has like a Transformer style feel to it, which is really cool. And the premise of the story is that you're trying to fight a war against crime in a futuristic style Los Angeles, which will see you take on roles and objectives throughout each of the game's missions, where you're usually tasked with completing different objectives, where you have to destroy certain buildings, take out corrupt organizations, even just eliminate as many threats as you possibly can. The game is heavily focused on action, and make no mistake, and this game is full of all that. There's so much combat, explosions, bullets flying everywhere. It's crazy. Now, even though it plays from a third person perspective, you can play from different viewpoints, and the majority of the camera angles primarily play from a more of a top down angle, and you will usually have to explore each of the environments in question, exploring different areas where you have to find items of interest, health items, upgrades and ammunition for your weapons, where you'll have to find like switches or you'll have to destroy certain structures in order to allow you to unlock new areas to proceed through, usually with some sort of boss encounter towards the end of the mission. But you also have access to additional multiplayer modes and arena battles where you can play pretty much against your mates or even against computer controlled opponents, where you have to defeat waves of enemies and try to take over various structures, almost like a capture the flag scenario where you have like a red team or a blue team and you have to try and infiltrate and take over the opposing team's base in order to win the match. But in saying that, it's very difficult because the enemies constantly keep spawning, so no sooner have you destroyed a few enemies and gotten that wee bit closer, a whole new wave of enemies will spawn after a period of time, making it even more difficult. When the game did release, it was met with very positive reviews, averaging around 8 out of 10 or even 80 to 90% in most cases on most of the magazines that reviewed it, stating it to be a very original concept that was different from everything else that was out there at the time, as it mixed combat and vehicular action along with multiplayer features that really suited the gameplay. Plus, it had enough fast-paced elements to keep the action fun and frantic all at the same time.
Crowd control situation.
A lot of people generally rave about this game, and many would consider it to be a very overlooked title, because during 1998 we had massive titles. There was the likes of Metal Gear Solid, you had Colin McRae Rally, Gran Turismo had released in North America and Europe around that time, plus you had a sea of other titles that were really just in the mainstream, that were really taking over. You also had the likes of Parasite Eve in North America and Japan, you had Resident Evil 2. Like, 1998 was crazy for consoles in terms of games that were being produced. And in all honesty, this game here is definitely one of the better games that was released in that year, but because there was so many titles that were being released, big names, big brands, that this one just got pushed aside slightly. But for those that did witness it and managed to pick it up back then, they were in for a treat, as the game even to this day is still highly regarded. Because even with recording this video, a load of you guys in the comments did reach out to me and say that you wanted to see a video on this, because clearly there's a lot of fans for this game, and I can understand why. Having haven't sat down to play it, I can see why it's so good. It's very frantic, a lot of fun. There's just a lot of stuff that you can do, and if you like blowing stuff up, you will definitely be in your element here. But even I will admit, going back over the years, this was one of those games that did elude me to a degree. I remember playing it on a demo at some point as part of the UK PlayStation magazine, and I thought it was fun, but I just never allowed myself to really go forward and pick up the full game, and I kind of forgot about it after that. But at the same time, you always seen videos of it popping up on YouTube, and clearly a lot of other people were reviewing it, playing it, so clearly it has a massive fan base. So much so that as I was researching for this video, even just to talk about it, even on Steam, which I'll leave a link to a page in the description, there is a modern re-envisioning being currently developed that is based off of the elements from LAPD itself, but putting a more modern spin on it. But it will also have co-op and multiplayer elements that would have been familiar with the original. So if you're a fan of the classic PS1 game, this might be another really good one to look at. From the early videos and images, it does look fairly decent now, but again, there's no real known release date of when it's going to be announced or so forth, so hopefully we won't have to wait too long to find that out. But again, you can check out the information that is there on the Steam page. But with that being said, I genuinely think this is a very solid game, an often overlooked title, yes, but I wouldn't put it past as being one of the most original and unique games on the PlayStation for what it offers. The fact that you can transform your vehicle throughout play speaks volumes, because it changes and adds so much different dynamics to the gameplay that you're not restricted to the same style, that you can change out your objectives and the way you play and how you approach different situations, whether you want to go in all guns blazing or whether you want to take your time and just pick enemies off from a distance. The weapons that you have at your disposal do allow you to do that. Plus, if you just like shooting everything and just blowing the hell out of everything, then yeah, you'll have a lot of fun with this. I found that definitely to be the case. It can be a little bit tricky though when you're trying to use the platforming elements, because a lot of the platforms and walkways that you'll run on, especially to get up to higher areas to find items or even to find switches or areas to unlock, it can be a little bit tricky because they're very narrow and you'll find yourself falling off them a lot, so you'll have to be just mindful of your surroundings. But other than that, that's the only major gripe that you could really find really with the game, but I don't think too many people will find that to be an issue at all. It's genuinely a very, very good, solid experience, a very good original idea, and quite possibly one of the best games to be released in 1998 that nobody knows about. And for those that do obviously know about it, they can understand its concept and they were able to enjoy it for what it is. But the fact is that people still play this even today and still remember it and highly rate it speaks volumes about it. Very cool game indeed, I have to say. With that being said, I would love to know your thoughts of this game. What do you think of it overall? Are you a fan of this game? Would you even be interested in playing the new version of the game that's coming out on Steam? It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you would like to see more content around more unusual and unique games like this that were also released on the PlayStation, then leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and you can check out this playlist here on screen to see a lot more of those games in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.